Hello, world. This is America's Supermom, and this is a special edition that I call the Corona Chronicles. During this time, we are suffering from a pandemic that is affecting everyone across the world. We are joined with the rules and regulations of being shelter in place, which means we are limited with the ability to go about our daily business, confined to our homes based on a coronavirus that has been sweeping the entire world. For some people, the effects could be mild. For others, it can be fatal. So we are coming together as a community, as a family during this time of difficulty to share what it is like in our part of the world, how we are affected, and the things that we have in common, what kind of problems that are taking place in our industries and in our relationships and finances, and coming together so that we can plan for a better tomorrow. As this epidemic or pandemic crosses the world, we are waiting for relief. We're waiting for the virus to die off and for us to go back to some state of normalcy, whatever that may be, after things kind of settle down. So, what is that going to look like once the dust settles? How are things going to be different? So, as we go through this process, we're coming together as a world to create ideas, strategies, connect in ways that we have never connected before. So, that is the purpose of the special podcast that I call the Corona Chronicles, so that we can get some insight and have empathy and compassion on one another, create new innovative ideas that can not only improve our life, but our fellow brothers and sisters across the world. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited about my next guest, Megan Barnhard. We actually met organically through Facebook. We actually are part of a networking group together. So we've been able to really kind of grow our relationship in terms of, business advice and things that we have just come together just in the landscape as it relates to professional growth. One of the things that really makes me excited today is that we were able to connect on another call, which allowed us to get a little bit more personal and create a deeper relationship. So I'm really excited to have her here today and for her to share her insight on some of the things that she is gifted at, such as writing, and this is very important, copywriting, when it comes to reaching your target audience and be able to create that right message for the people that you're serving, I think is so appropriate. So at this time, I'm going to give Megan the opportunity to introduce herself before we dive into the interview.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lachelle. It's just wonderful to speak with you again. And hello to all of your fabulous listeners. So as you mentioned, writing is my first love, helping people tell their stories. I'm a writing coach, and I also call myself a story magician because my superpower is being able to connect the dots and help people see their experience in a new way. And sometimes that is to heal by telling a different story. And sometimes that is to really nail down the messaging that will help them attract the clients that they feel called to serve. So there's a lot of facets to the way I like to help people write, but it really all comes back to I'm very passionate about helping people share their magic. I think that there are too many folks who are not even sure what their magic is, and if they do know what it is, they don't want to talk about it, and that might be their magic might be a business, it might be a personal story or triumph or transformation. But I think the world would be a better place if more people knew what their magic was and knew how to talk about it and share it with others in a clear and compelling way.
That is so true. Because I noticed just in my own life, sometimes you experience things as they happen, and you really don't have a way to connect those dots, so to speak, like what you say.
Yeah.
Being able to, you may understand it, but not be able to share it with other people. So I know, just in my case, being a parent, it's important to be able to connect the dots because I have children that are looking to my guidance on how I may have my perspective shown to them or just my everyday behavior.
Absolutely. Yeah. So sometimes we're in that chaos and, we look around at the stuff that's happening to us in our lives or to the world at large and we go, what is happening? It doesn't make any sense. And that could be we don't know how to connect the dots at all. Or sometimes we're connecting those dots in really damaging ways where we're saying to ourselves, see, that event happening proves I wasn't meant to start a business or I wasn't meant to be in a loving relationship or whatever it is. And we keep looking for, confirmation bias is very real, where once we believe something is true, then we look for and we find more evidence that it's true, right? So if I'm walking around thinking I'm not meant to be happy and successful, then anything that happens that I can use to reinforce that, I will. And the same goes for if I'm walking around thinking, man, it's good to be alive. you know, gosh, I've got some gifts and some talents and the world's a great place. Then we'll find that evidence too. So being very conscious and deliberate about how we tell stories is huge in terms of, I know you work a lot in the space of mental wellness and people making conscious choices around how they're going to show up and feel, and how we're connecting those dots and which stories we're telling is a huge, huge part of that. And then it goes out a layer where the way you're connecting the dots when you talk about your business, for example, will either draw people to you that you want to work with or won't draw anybody or will draw clients that keep feeling like they're not a good fit, right? And you wonder, why is this happening? Why do I keep getting people making inquiries who are not the folks that I'm intending to work with? Well, it comes down to your messaging, right?
That is so true. And I think, having a coach is so key because of one of the things that I'd like to really explain to my clients is that if you have overcome trauma, for example, I just use this because this is the most easiest way to kind of create that image. So if you've overcome a trauma, your audience is the people that may still be dealing with that trauma.
Yeah.
However, the language to transform them is different than where they're at right now. So having a coach kind of helps you bridge that gap because if you sometimes stay in the space of the language that they're talking, you can get drawn back into that same world or trauma and not have the energy and fortitude to be the one that helps them get out of the trauma, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm hearing you say is that you need to be a magnet pulling people forward, that motive force where you're meeting them where they are, but immediately starting to help them move forward out of it. And the image that comes to mind is if you encountered somebody who is stuck in quicksand or mud or and they're getting sucked down, you want to make sure when you're reaching out your hand which way you're both getting pulled, right? You're going to reach out your hand, you want to make that connection, but you don't want to then sink down into whatever kind of muck and mire they're dealing with. You want to make sure you're helping them get out. That's really neat to think about, Lichelle.
Yeah, because it makes a difference with, how you run ads or commercials or things, when it comes to your target audience, because, you can either really highlight the pain, or you can highlight the transformation. So I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit different, because when, and that message makes a difference, because if you are highlighting the pain, people just want relief, but they don't really have a way of really committing or having an image of what that relief journey looks like. Whereas when you're talking transformation, it looks like, where I'm at and where I want to go, there is a journey to get there. So the mindset when that person comes to you is a little bit different. They recognize that there is work that's involved that they would have to be involved in, rather than just thinking it's going to happen for them without any work on their own.
That's such a good point. So when we reinforce the pain, we kind of put people, or we help them stay in a space where they're just looking for a palliative relief. It's like being too hungry and you reach for the candy bar, right? When you get past the point of hunger, where you go, well, I can make myself a sandwich, and you just go, oh, I just need, something right away, and you reach for the wrong solution. When I do a lot of copy coaching, which is where I'm reading people's sales copy and giving them feedback on ways to make it more compelling. And one of the consistent pieces of feedback I give is to make sure in the copy that you are helping your reader feel there is hope for change. Because we never make a big change when we're feeling really lousy. It's never when we ate too much pizza the night before that we wake up and go, I'm going to go to that 6 a.m. CrossFit class for the first time. That's not how it works. We need to occupy a space of hopefulness, and we need to believe in the possibility of change before we'll make a change. So, this is kind of just adding more weight to the point you were making, that if we spend too much time talking about the pain points when we're writing copy, what are the challenges and where are people stuck, not only do we risk kind of overwhelming people, and they go, oh, well, then just give me the easy solution, and they'll end up buying the quick fix course that actually doesn't fix anything, but that promises to fix things. And they also won't occupy that space where they think, this is really my time, and I can make a big change. So it's, on so many levels, it's important to give people hope with messaging. I really am a believer that your content and your marketing message should already be helping people. It's leading them to more help because they're going to get coaching with you. But I am a big believer that good content is already making a positive impact on people's lives.
That's good. Now, so for somebody who is working on creating these images and stories, for hope, when it comes to writing, how does one begin to start that journey? Because a lot of times, we have this copy, you want to have so many people like your post, or, whatever the case is, there's always a formula that we try to follow that will give us a guide to do what it is we want to do. But what should we really be working on when it comes to creating that compelling hope for the reader?
Well, my first advice to clients is always listen to your audience. Listen to what your people are struggling with, and then you create content that you can do so many different things, and there are so many different objectives. So some of the objectives that I like, that feel really good to me, and that tend to make people reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in what you're talking about, tell me more, are quick tips. So you're listening to your audience, and you realize that people are all stuck or frustrated in this one particular place, and you write a quick tip, or you do a video or a podcast episode, whatever kind of content you're creating, and say, hey, are you stuck here? Try this one thing. Oh, the relief that people get. And then they reach back out to you and say, hey, that was so great. Thank you. Do you have more? Or, how can I move forward from here? And that often opens up a conversation to having them coach with you. So, quick tip, or answering a question, Even just normalizing, even just a post saying, man, I'm hearing a lot of people stuck with this. I've been stuck with that in the past too. If you're stuck with that, just want you to know you're not alone. It's like a little love note you're sending out to people. Um, but it all starts with listening to your audience so that you know what they're struggling with, where their challenges are, and also what they really hope for. So you can start speaking to that in all manner of ways. I'm also really a big proponent of telling stories. Telling stories about yourself is a way to be relatable, be a bit vulnerable. Again, normalize, show people that they're not alone. And it also is just really compelling because human brains are wired to learn from stories. We give stories preferential treatment when we see them. If you're scrolling along and something is a story, you will most likely stop and read it because we evolved that way. That's how we passed on really important information, was through stories. So listen to your audience and tell more stories in a nutshell. That's my advice for folks.
That's good. Now, so brings up another key is, how do we listen? Because so many times, people feel like, hey, I'm listening. A mom feels like she's listening to her kids. A husband feels like he's listening to his wife. But, this sometimes is a disconnect for a lot of people. So what are some ways, like even listening to your audience, how do you go about engaging to start that listening process?
Oh, that is a very good point. It needs to be active listening. Because that will be very frustrating for business owners if they're just sitting back and watching social media and thinking, okay, the answers will come. So there are so many ways to do this. I actually have a whole worksheet that I use with my clients and I take them through, and it's kind of choose your own adventure. Here are so many different activities and you choose the ones that feel easiest for you to do. But it includes things like going back to your consultation notes when you talk with people, even people who don't end up becoming your clients, and really looking through what were people saying was bringing them to me, or where were they stuck, or what were they hoping to get. Good, a big part of good listening is asking good questions. So when clients start working with me on messaging, I take them through, go look at your intake forms. How are you taking notes on your consultations? Because some people may be doing awesome sales calls and consults, but they're not taking notes, so they can't refer back to them. How are you getting client testimonials and really asking questions that show you the value that people got from working with you? So going to the people that you've worked with or who at least got as far as a consult is always the best place to start, because those are the people who were drawn to you specifically. Then you can go to casting wider nets. You can pose questions to your email list. You can ask people. Everybody loves when we show interest in them, right? If you ask people how they are, questions about themselves, you can do something really simple like, I'd love to hear what questions are coming up for you regarding blank, and you put in your field. So for me, it'd be love to hear what questions are coming up for you in your writing these days. Simple as that, and people will respond. You can do the same thing on social media. You can simply ask questions that help you get to know your audience better. Now, there's a caveat to be made there, because a lot of people use this as a strategy, and you'll see them if you go into a Facebook group, there's the person who says, I'm doing market research and I want to know your top 3 questions about this. And you'll see there are no comments and no responses. And that's a person who hasn't laid the groundwork and first built some kind of relationship. So, listening and active listening can build relationship, but you want to have a back and forth. So maybe you start by introducing yourself and you ask just one question that's general about people, and then you come back later and you ask them more specific questions. But you need to be genuinely curious about other people if you want the answers that will help you write great marketing content. I don't think there's any way around it.
That is so true, because that's what a lot of people struggle with is, you're in this day and age now where, networking, you would go to a place, everybody's throwing their business card at you, talking about what they can do. Now we're online, so we're trying to build relationships because we can't do that, or, so you get a new friend on Facebook or LinkedIn, the first thing they do is try to sell you something. So I think it's really key to kind of really be able to hone in and think about, what are some things that we could do in order to really build and deepen that relationship, as opposed to just having our own agenda, and
Yeah.
pushing that on somebody.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
even if people aren't coming, or even if they're not going straight to, they're trying to sell us something, I think we all have a spidey sense for when a question is asked with an ulterior motive. So again, I was giving that example of somebody who comes in the Facebook group and they're asking a question that's very clearly like a trap, right? You feel like if you answer it, then you're going to get sold, right? So it's like one step
Right.
removed from being sold, but you feel like if you comment on it, then they're going to say, well, join my program that, for only $9.99. Um, so it's just being um, is being honest with yourself about whether you're asking questions out of curiosity or whether you're asking questions. Mm, let me liken this to a conversation. We've all been in a conversation where we know the other person's not listening. They're just waiting for their turn to talk, right?
Right.
You can see they're like, oh, I've got something brilliant that I'm going to say right after you stop talking. So we don't want to have those kinds of conversations. We want to have genuine conversations. So I mean, obviously your intention is to promote your business if you're doing marketing, and good, because there's so many people with amazing skills. I started out talking about, I wish more people's magic was more evident. So I'm all for that. Yes, please tell us about, the amazing things you do, and just do it in a way where you are open to the conversation going in different directions, where if you show up asking and listening to your audience, be willing to hear what they have to say, even if it's different from what you assumed it would be.
Mm, that's good. So be willing to go in a different direction. And I think that is so key because, if I am in a conversation and I'm leading it in the way that I foresee the end taking place, why am I in a conversation with another
There you go.
person?
Yep. Just write the blog post in that case. Yep.
Right. So it's like I can just get there by myself without even talking to anybody if that's the
Right.
direction that I'm going. Yeah, so that is so key. So you want to be able to have these experiences and make that connection richer with that person contributing to that experience more so than it just being all about you. That's a great illustration.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to having a message of hope or some kind of compelling copy, what are some tips that we could share with the people who are listening about some things that might be included in a hopeful copy in order to kind of create this image for the reader?
Sure. So again, knowing where your people are, because then your message of hope might be something as simple as, "Hey, are you stuck with this? Um, you're not alone. A lot of my clients tell me that's exactly where they're stuck. This is something that I personally have been stuck with, and just want to let you know it's totally fine. It's normal." It could be as simple as that, right? That gives people that hopefulness that, there's not something wrong with me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then knowing where they want to get to. So part of listening to your audience, really listening to what are their desires. And we can get stuck as business owners and as coaches with the results that we know we want to deliver to people. But there's a difference sometimes between the results you're most excited to deliver and the results your people are most excited to get. And hopefully they go together, right? Hopefully it's not a complete mismatch. Like, the result I wanted was I wanted to lose 10 pounds, and the result somebody was giving was my closet was getting organized, right? That's a complete mismatch. But we need to make sure we're talking about results in the language of our audience so that they recognize that. So here's a tip that I would give to everybody who's writing for their own business. And it's challenging. It's something that you have to keep practicing. When you sit down to write, take off your expert hat. Take off your hat where you know so much about what you do and you know the reasons why people need the thing you have. And put on the hat of your audience, of your ideal client, who hasn't studied what you've studied and doesn't have the training and doesn't have the background and doesn't know how all the things are connected. And really think, what is this person really keen to get, and how can I use that language? And if you think about anytime you've been on the other end of expert jargon, you know how frustrating it is, right? So if you're at the mechanic or you're at the doctor, or somebody that uses a lot of specialized language, and they're talking to you in the terms of their expertise, and you just kind of tune out, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. When the mechanic is asking me if I need this, and I go, I have no idea. Tell me what that thing does, right? Do you want your such and such replaced? I don't know. But if you say, oh, well, this is the thing that's, slowing down your acceleration. Okay, yeah, I want that replaced. So it's hard. It's hard for us to get out of our own knowledge as experts and really think about what it's like from our clients' point of view. But the more you can do that, the better you will write messaging and copy, because you'll write about, and then you'll be able to do this and that and the other thing, right, in your copy. And that's what people will respond to. So it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, this is true because there's this term, I want to say, you cannot solve your problems with the same mindset that got you there, or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I think Einstein is credited with saying that, although probably a lot of people have said it, but it's literally a genius idea, right?
right. So it's like, once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. So it's
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
the same concept. So if that's the case, then, you fall into the trap of, okay, so how do I go back in time to a place where I didn't know? That is a challenge, trying to be able to write in that manner when you have evolved to somebody totally different.
Yeah, and it is a lot easier if you're actively listening to your audience. So something I recommend everybody do is create a dump doc, which can be in a note app on your phone. I have a Google Doc, and I copy and paste in there the questions that people ask me. I run a free Facebook group, and when people come in, I ask them what their challenges are with writing content for their business and what their goals are. And I copy and paste and I save those answers. And Lachelle, I tell you, I have sometimes used those exact words. I don't mean been inspired by it. I mean, I have picked up from that dump doc and put it exactly into a sales email or a sales page, because I go, this is how the people I want to help are talking about the thing they want help with. And that's when you get those. So I had one of my favorite experiences was doing a sales webinar, and one of the women who ended up buying the program said to me after, Megan, I feel like you read my mind. And I was like, oh, well, I'm so glad that this is what's going to help you. And what I didn't say to her, but what was true, was I didn't read her mind. I read her answers in the Facebook group and other people's answers. I'm paying attention. It seems like magic, but it's really asking the right questions and paying attention to what people are saying. And so I'm not immune to getting into that expert talk. I absolutely fall into that trap. I love talking a lot. I love writing a lot. I have a degree in philosophy. I go deep. I talk about the whys of things. But that's how I stay grounded, is I am listening and writing down what my people are saying, and using that and paying attention. So it's a skill you can definitely build. It is not it's not easy to start, maybe, but you can absolutely build it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that gives a lot of people hope.
Yeah. One of the things I do with my clients is we create a customer language cheat sheet. And so it's a combination of the dump doc plus then I'm showing them how to turn that into copywriting. So, okay, you've captured this great phrase. How can you put that into the sales page for your program? And it's not rocket science. But at the same time, I guess it's not obvious to us because that's not how we generally write. We generally write and we say, oh, how would I put this? And it's really important to have a voice. It's really important to be your authentic self and let that come through. But you have to use your voice in the language of your customers.
I like that. Very good. All right. So you've given us some great nuggets. I can't believe we've already, come to the end of the interview. I'm like, hey, I have 2 or 3 pages of notes over here.
Oh, I love it.
So what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you? Because, this is definitely right now with everybody changing. Some people are reinventing themselves, in the landscape of, the economy, what's going on now. So your services definitely can be a benefit. So what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So find me on my website, meganbarnhard.com, and that's where you can learn about working with me. You can read my blog posts and get some more tips. And that's where you'll find out about my membership program, Blogging Flow. And then I am pretty active on Instagram and Facebook, and my handle is at Write with Megan. So WRITE with Megan, MEGAN. And I love connecting with people there because I'm listening to what your challenges are. And then you might see that come back in an email and go, she read my mind.
I love it. I love it. But you know what? That is really what people want. They really just want to be heard and that, somebody is really caring about what's going on. So, I mean, it's really, like you said, it's simple, but it's just not easy. It's not easy because we get distracted. We're on social media. Even if you have a certain client base, you can get distracted on what your competition's doing or, what's the next best thing that's coming through the pike. And, we kind of get distracted from what our mission is, which is to serve our customers. So I really think that was a great key that we need to get back into some routine and thinking about how we are actively listening to the needs of our customers. So that's great.
Yeah. And when you're doing that, you're already helping them, because not everybody will become your client, but there are going to be people who reach out to you and say, Lachelle, what you shared was so inspiring, and I really needed to hear that today. And how good does that feel? So it's, from my point of view, this is a very effective way to write content. And I call the process seen, heard, sold. What I'm teaching my clients to do is help their potential clients feel seen, heard, and sold on working with them. But I love also that separated from any new clients or any thought about your business growing, when you write content this way and copy this way, it means you are contributing to more bright spots on the internet. And can we all agree we need some more bright spots on the internet?
Absolutely.
So, yes, it's effective for getting those clients to reach out and say, thank you, how else can we work together? But you're also just showing up helping. And I think that's a worthwhile skill to learn in itself.
So true. So any final words that you want to share with everybody?
I could just talk to you all day. It is so much fun. And thank you. No, I'll leave folks with one of my favorite writing mantras. How about that? So this is a mantra I like to use for myself if I ever feel stuck when I'm creating content. And I like to share it at the beginning of the co-writing sessions that I do with my clients. And it is, the world needs your message. So if you're stuck in your own head and you think, I don't know what to write, I don't know, just think there's somebody out there who needs exactly what you have to share. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be published.
Love it. That's so awesome. Well, that is great advice. And I'm really looking forward to it. And we also are going to be doing an interview this week. So I want to put that out there. We're doing an Instagram interview on Thursday. So that means I'm going to be getting this podcast out before then.
I love it. Nothing like a little accountability.
Yes, so I'm really
Wonderful.
excited. So I am really glad that we were able to have this interview. You're such a breath of fresh air, and these
Mm,
tips are just great. I mean, active listening is something that we all could use some improvement in. I know myself, especially when it comes to parenting, that's one of the areas that it's like, hey, talk to the hand. I'm the adult, but when we really, sit ourselves down and think about how can I engage more with my kids and listen to what they value, it really can change the whole trajectory of your relationships and communication.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
All
Love
right.
that. Well,
Well,
thank you so much for having me.
thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
So do I. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Okay. So we'll talk then, okay?
All right. Bye.
Bye.
What a fun interview with Megan. So many nuggets of wisdom. My key takeaway is active listening to your customers. The more we listen, the easier our job is. So, just like she said, we can create a dump doc, um, and all the language that our customers use, we can just repurpose that same language in order to serve the needs that they have. So key, right? So, how many of us usually get in our own head about what we want to serve people instead of listening to what they really want? And then we wonder why we have no conversions, right? So, I just thought this was so um, simple, but not easy, right? We have to take the time to do the work that we think is extra work, but in the end, it makes our job so much easier. So there were a few technical difficulties, which I apologize for. You know how it is with these platforms, internet, all this stuff that's going on. However, one of the things about being successful and accomplishing your goals is sometimes you just have to do it anyway. You just have to release it anyway, whether it has flaws, whether the lighting's not right, whether, your hair doesn't have the right part, or all these different things that we kind of allow to get in the way of us completing our task. Because sometimes better is better than not, or good is better than not doing anything at all, right? So it all depends under with the lens that we look under. So I want to thank you guys for listening. If you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email me at info@LachelleAtkins.com, or you can reach out to me through Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, or my YouTube channel. I would love to have you on as a guest. And just as Megan said, we all have a story that we can share. Everybody has something interesting. The world needs to hear what your version is, because you never know who that story can resonate with and be a lifeline or a sense of hope for somebody else who may hear your message. So I encourage you guys to sign up for a podcast. It's audio only, so you don't have to worry about the lighting, what outfit you have on. You can just be free to share with no added pressure of being on video. So, again, I want to thank you guys for listening. If something in this podcast resonated with you, share it with a friend, share it with one of your Facebook groups. If you're even more compelled to share, do a review. I'm on all podcast platforms, from iTunes to Stitcher, Spotify, everything. I can't even think of all the places. So write a review so that other people may find out all the valuable insights that are shared here on my podcast. Again, I want to thank you all for listening, and I will see you next time.